Knowing a little bit about Italians and Italy, do you think the Italian wine classification system is complex or easy? Let us know in the comments below. So I know that all of you have bought at least one bottle of Italian wine and have seen these 3 or 4 letters, IGT, DOC, and DOCG, and have probably wondered, well, what does that mean exactly? These are part of the Italian wine classification system, which essentially is a guarantee that you're producing a quality wine that meets government standards. So I find it useful when I'm learning something new to have a visual. So let's visualize, in this case, a pyramid. At the base of this pyramid, we have IGT wines. In the middle portion, we have DOC, and at the very top, we have DOCG. IGT stands for Indicazione Geografica Tipica, so typical geographic indication. And this means that wines come from a broad geographic area. So for example, let's say we have a wine labeled Veneto IGT. Well, we know that 85% of those grape varieties in that wine have to come from the Veneto region. Additionally, there are other rules and regulations that govern the vineyard and then production techniques. But generally, IGT is the most lenient, or has the most lenient rules and regulations out of all of these 3. And we should also note that IGT is not synonymous with low quality wines, but it just gives producers a little bit more room to showcase their philosophy and produce wines that don't have to follow such stringent rules and regulations. So now we move on to DOC, so the middle of the pyramid. So the majority of Italian wines are actually DOC wines. So now we're looking at an even more restricted region. So before we talked about Veneto IGT, now we're looking at Prosecco DOC, for example. So Prosecco DOC can be made in a specific region, has to be made with the grape variety Glera. So it's a wine that's inherently tied to that region. And there are very strict rules and regulations that govern the whole production cycle. There's even sensory analysis by a government body. Moving on to DOCG, DOCG stands for Denominazione di Origine Controllata e Garantita, so denomination of controlled and guaranteed origin. And here we're talking about an even more restricted area. So before we said Veneto IGT, Prosecco DOC, and there's even a Prosecco DOCG from the town of Conegliano, or the area of Conegliano. These are wines that undergo an even more, if you can imagine, rigorous standards. So we're talking again about wines that are inherently tied to the territory. We're talking about wines that have to undergo sensory analysis and chemical analysis by a government body. And they're also given a special seal with an individual identification number by the Italian government. So, of course, as we're thinking about this pyramid, we're going up in quality, right? But that doesn't mean that, for example, within the IGT category, there are low quality wines. In fact, some very important, very expensive Italian wines are labeled IGT. So as with everything, you really have to understand the producer, understand his philosophy, understand the type of wine that he's making. So if you want to know more about the great IGT, DOC, and DOCG wines of Italy, as usual, subscribe to our channel, head over to the Mama Blib site, follow us on social media, send us your questions and comments, and we'll see you next time.